to be about a junior, you really have to be making some concrete plans. You really need to be verbalizing with your teacher, where do you see your child at 18? Where do you see your child at 21? Where do you see your child at 25? And sometimes it's very hard for parents to do. But at that point, we should be hooking up with a lot of outside agencies. Whether they're high functioning and they're working like with school counselors, to starting all the PSATs, ACTs, VOTEC and community college, that aspect. Or if they're low functioning, and we need to start looking into the transition planning that might occur between 18 and 21. Be aware that DVR benefits do not kick in until they're 21. The only thing that covers your child, and yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. All those initials down there on that side of the table. But the only thing that covers your child, that they're entitled to the benefits between 18 and 21, is administered through the school and IEP. And a lot of people think their kid turns 18 and there's no more IEPs. Yes, we're out of here. You need to still plan to make that transition smoothly from 18 to 21. What does that look like?
So what you said there is critical, because you're saying that if you're graduating your child out at 18, which can be your decision as a parent, then there are going to be no supports.
And they better have checked this little box. They can graduate, walk through the ceremony with their peers. It's a law called Kevin's Law, and it's a law in our Washington state. But we actually project they will be exit. Let's say your 18-year-old graduates this year, with his peers, 2014, but we know that it's appropriate that he stays in the transition plan 3 more years till he's 21. So that means this page, his projected exit date will be 2017. He'll still walk through the ceremony with his peers. He still gets to have the cap and the gown. He's not going to do that when he's 21, because that would be odd, and even he knows that. Even poor John on the low functioning end knows, hey, that is too weird for me. Because at this point, they should have some interaction with their peers in the high school. So Kevin Law guarantees that they can walk, have the ceremony with their peers while maintaining their school IEPs for 3 more years.
So at 17, we've really got to be thinking about the future from the school standpoint and looking at other resources. Maddie?
Can I just interject something? As far as like an after high school program, I would tell you that as parents, definitely start transition programs way before 17. Because I have people calling me as soon as they have a diagnosis wanting to get into our program. So if you think it takes a long time to get a diagnosis for a year, you need to start thinking about how long it's going to take you to get your child into a transition program that fits you, fits your child, and is something that they want to be invested in, because that's going to be a next big part of their life. And parents, there's not a ton of programs. There's really great programs coming out right now, and there's a lot of great, there's more variety than there used to be, but it's important to start thinking much further ahead than that. 17, you definitely have to be there, but I know parents are starting at 3, 4, and 5 years old to start looking where they're going to be living, what type of housing, what type of vocational work, what type of teaching, behavioral management, all those things that come into play, and it's very important to start as soon as you can. And just like a typical child that you save for college, you need to start saving for that.
Are you guys going to have a program for like day programs, not so much like the kids will live at the travel center, but like a day program?
We don't actually, we're not a living facility. We are just, we are a day program. We are,
So Sunridge, the house is one thing. Trellis is operated independently.
Are you guys going to have younger kids classes?
We have programs where we've had different individuals come out for the summer, which we call our Seeds of Opportunity program, where they come out and they get a Trellis experience, and they get to come out and they are part of the Trellis program, and they get to learn. They do the vocational skills, they do the life skills, they do the behavioral management with us, they do all those different things, and they kind of get a taste. And it's really a good time for us to kind of overlook and say, hey parents, based gardening and farming. We have chickens, pigs, we're getting cattle in about 2 weeks. And we also have 20 raised garden beds and 20 acres. And we just built 2 state-of-the-art greenhouses that will function for year-round production with our individuals. But what we do is we teach life skills, behavioral management. We work with Central Washington University's psychology department for their BCBA program, and we actually just tentatively hired a BCBA advisor that's going to come and oversee all of our interns from Central Washington University from the west side, but they're going to come and look at all those. And we also just got a connection with WSU for their organics program that's going to have interns, and we'll be hiring through them for our greenhouse to supervise our individuals that will be working. They have special education and organics degree, so it works really nicely for us. But we teach them life skills, vocational skills, behavioral management. We just work on pretty much everything that encompasses a person as a whole, and we take a very holistic approach.
What's the ages that starts on that program?
18.
18 and over. Now, you have brochures in the back.
I do have brochures in the back.
How many people can you take total in the program?
Right now, we're looking to 8.
Okay, so you have 4, so there's
We have
4.
6 right now.
Okay, and it's private pay.
It's all private pay. We actually, we're working with the state right now. I'm not sure what to put my letter. We're working with the state right now to get vocational funding. So hopefully by the time some of your individuals come up, Cyrus Bibb and Evelyn Perez are some of the individuals that we're working with. Cyrus Bibb, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with him, but he's actually redoing the DPA programming, I believe, to allocate different vocational funds for the state of Washington. So we're looking at an exception to the rule, knowing that our program will not ever be fully funded by government because we're not just a vocational program. We do the life skills, behavioral management, and all those things. We take more of a holistic approach to each individual. So.
Excellent. So let's go on down. Gretchen, at 17, is there something we should be thinking of from a Social Security or a guardianship angle here?
Well, yeah, I mean, if an individual isn't already receiving SSI, you can't apply for SSI until the individual turns 18. And the Social Security recommends that, again, if you're not already receiving the SSI as a child, that as an adult, you start that process the month that they turn 18. And that's if you haven't already been on SSI as a child. And we are really good at helping people navigate that process for Social Security. I've been doing that piece of it for over 10 years, and so I know the ins and outs pretty well. Now, if you have somebody under the age of 18 that is receiving SSI, they're going to need to basically reapply at 18.
And why would we be getting SSI under age 18?
Well, because, there's different reasons. You can be getting SSI under 18 just solely based on the functional or, the physical or mental limitations that an individual might be experiencing, and also they look at the family's income to decide if a child is eligible for SSI. What happens is when you turn 18, that changes. As Social Security no longer looks at the family's resources, they only look at the individual's resources and income that they have. Another way a child could be receiving Social Security is through the parents. Whether the parents are receiving Social Security on their own record. So, or if a parent has deceased, they might be able to receive Social Security based on deceased parent.
But at 17, we're not really in that yet. We're just, is there
Right.
anything for us to do at 17 for Social Security?
Not at 17, but
Okay.
just to start thinking about it. If you have like any medical records already in your possession, or I wouldn't be so concerned about, oh my gosh, I need to get all the medical records ahead of time, because if you don't have, I mean, if you already have them, great. If you don't, then Social Security, you sign a form and they can get the medical records. Otherwise, it's going to cost you. I would also recommend that you collect all the school records, because you're going to need that as well to prove disability. And also, it's important to have that long term, because at some point, say, 10, 20 years down the road, if for some reason that individual needs those school records, they may not be available. They might be archived, and the school district might say, sorry, we don't have those anymore, we can't retrieve those. So it's really important to get those school records, copies, keep the IEP records and everything for future reference, whether it's for Social Security or any other reason.
What about guardianship? Is there anything we do at 17?
Not at 17, but it's good to start to have that dialogue. Like, is my child, where are they at? Are they going to need that support? Am I going to need to be a guardian, like a full-time guardian financially and involving healthcare decisions? Or is there a lesser restrictive means or route that we can go?
So again, we have John and we have Sue, right? And there's guardianship can be
It can
in
vary.
between depending on what.
Yeah, you could have a full guardianship, you could have a partial guardianship, you could have even just power of attorney. There's a lot of other alternatives to guardianships, and courts typically like to look at the lesser restrictive means. Because you don't want to take away all their freedoms or their liberties to be able to, if they're capable of making any decisions, it's good for them to retain those rights, to the best of their abilities. But if there are certain aspects of their lives that they're not able to manage on their own, then that's when you need to consider, what do I need? Do I need the guardianship? Do we need to do a durable power of attorney? What do we need to look at? And we don't have attorneys at CWDR, but we can disseminate information on it. I provided some in the back on guardianships and alternative to guardianships. So we can give you that information, and if you want to talk to somebody through CLEAR, which is a legal advice hotline for low-income individuals, then that might be the route. Or we can give you a list of attorneys that specialize in guardianships.
So we're going to come back to you at 18.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
Carol?
And I have a little different take on this,
Sure.
only because we've run into it recently. If I were to be getting a guardianship for my child, if that's something I felt strongly about, I would want that in place by 18, not start at 18. Now, the reason it's come up for us is because we have been trying to get records, and parents have requested the records for children who were not capable of doing it themselves and have been denied records because of HIPAA policies and other privacy laws. So for us, it's really important that be established by 18.
So we want to be preparing for it, but you
You know
can't
what?
do
I don't think you
guardianship
can even
until.
go to court before their 18th day.
But you
Can you, Elizabeth? Because I had to wait till after Maddie's 18th birthday
Well,
to go
actually,
to
you
court.
can, but it costs a lot of money, and when they're 18, they get the guardian ad litem, and then
the court doesn't.
But you
yeah.
can prepare for
You
it.
can
Yeah, I
prepare
think
for
Gretchen
it.
was
Yeah,
saying
you're
that.
here for,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
get
need
all
to
your
have-
ducks in the row.
Yes.
And I wanted to say something about when you get your records, because this is what happened to me. My daughter's birthday is in June, and so then we applied for SSI later, and the problem was she almost got kicked, it was a nightmare. Don't ask for the records in the summer. because then you're gonna miss your opportunity. They only give you so many weeks. Because first they'll, to get all the information, and then by the time the school gets it, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, but no one has responded. I got that for weeks and weeks, and I have like another week left, and I couldn't get my paperwork in. And another thing I highly recommend, because when I applied for SSI for my daughter, when your child's 13, you cannot get it. They've ever been on medication, see a counselor, you cannot get that. I had all those records. I had every doctor she's ever been to. I was able to get names and numbers, which I would have had to wait until she was 18 to get it, because they are not allowed to give you that information. So, maybe you listen now, because you need it for the SSI.
So I think what we're hearing is that you right now need to be preparing for the guardianship and SSI, if that's the route you're going to go, because you need to be accumulating those records. And who knows what it's going to be when the time comes, how you're going to be able to get them, or maybe you won't be able to get them. It's kind of interesting what happens. Children really at age 13 start taking over like mental health and so forth. They have the ability to accept or refuse healthcare. And I'm going into areas I'm not 100% there, but keep your records. Be preparing your case now.
A real simple thing we forgot at 16. This is simple, it's not guardianship or anything like that, SSI. Give them a Washington State ID or a driver's license. Because once they're 18, their school ID doesn't work anymore going through the airports or...
Parent can no longer vouch for them.
No. Once they're 18, your child has to invite you to the IEP.
Right?
Because we're dealing with...
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Now, if you have guardianship, it takes care of that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of interesting parts of this. But even for John, going to the driver's license place and getting that is scary and an ordeal, and not something mom and dad are really excited to go and do. Take a number, sit quietly while everyone's getting their pictures taken. I mean, these things seem really easy and simple, but believe me, from John's standpoint, and even from Sue's standpoint, these can be incredibly stressful things that seem really easy. Okay, so...
Hold on, this is really important.
Okay, we'll go to Elizabeth.
Get your ID before your kid is 18, because if you get your child ID before they're 18, every time they lose it, you can replace it. Once your child is over 18, you actually have to show records of payments, I told you all those things. So important. So you have to show them a residency, you have to show that they have a heating bill or whatever. And believe me, just get it before you...
Is that mentioned as part of the IEP?
To get, I put in
It's
my...
on the transition list.
It's on the transition list.
Okay.
Every teacher, it's not district policy to
Right,
say
right.
that, no.
Okay, Carol.
Well, I was going to say too, I also disagree that transition starts at 16. I think it starts at birth, as soon as you identify there's an issue. And because we all have dreams for our kids, and we all, you know, when you hold that tiny baby, you envision their future at that point. And so that's when you really start preparing as a parent for their life. And just simple things, like one of the things we said to our kids is when you graduate from college. We never said if you graduate or if you go to school or whatever. It was always when. So it was instilled in them from infancy forward. So telling a child that has a disability that their life includes work shouldn't be a shock to them, because we all work. That's what we all do. We all have a life outside of the family, and for a lot of kids it might be school or church or youth groups or other activities they're involved in, but all along the way they have their own life, and that's what you want to plan for them all along. We prefer to be invited to their 14th year IEP, just because it gives us an opportunity to get to know the child. They get to know us. They expect that we're going to be there, and it's just part of, it's normal to them. If we wait till they're 16 or 18, it's not quite so normal to have this stranger sitting at the table.
And let me add on that, if you can always invite anyone you want to an IEP. Basically, if they do not get a paycheck from the district, you have to sign a different form, And so if we were to invite Carol from Intrust or Madison from Trellis, you have to fill out a different form in order for that to be done. So keep that in aware at your IEP meetings that anyone outside of district needs a special invitation.
But sometimes when you're in an IEP and it's not going so well, having a third party there can be incredibly helpful, both for the school and
Oh, yeah.
because we're really involved in what we've got going on, and sometimes we're not really thinking clearly. So at 16 is when it's become legally mandated that we start
Right, but
the
at 14
transition.
you need to start
We
eighth
started
grade.
at what age? At 13? That we. Yeah, but Eric started much earlier, my son, with Elmview and so forth, and they were very, very helpful, so you didn't have to wait, and the sooner the better. Are we involved with you yet?
Well, hopefully you are,
Okay.
yeah, and if you're not already, if your child is not already enrolled with DDA, I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible, to fill out an application, which I did bring with you tonight, and apply for services to see if we can get them some supports that they already might be eligible for. So at the age of 17, if it's somebody that I've already been working with, I'm typically going to their IEP, or I'd like to go to their IEP and help with the transition planning process. And I worked for DDR for 10 years, so I know a lot about that process as well. I can kind of help answer questions there. And basically, we just like to start talking, or we like to continue the discussion with families on where you want your kid to be. Are they going to be living with you after graduation? Are they going to be living in supported living? So we start that conversation pretty early, and then, the age of 17, of course, every year I go out and do an assessment, and we talk about kind of the long-term goals for the family and for the child. And so I really do like to be involved in all the transition planning. DED funds, actually, long-term employment funds start when a person is 21. So we don't have access to employment supports until they're 21, and that's why Carol was mentioning earlier, we really want to encourage you to have your child stay in school until they're 21 if, we're hoping employment is part of their path in life.
They can apply for DVR at 18 and potentially get into the system, but if they need long-term supported employment, they're out of luck until they're 21. So what we see during that time frequently is kids who get a job, lose a job, get a job, lose a job, have issues with communication and social behaviors and different things on the job because they don't have a support system with them. And so it's just better to stay in school. That is the funding stream that kids have from 18 to 21.
Assuming that's the path, right? Because
Assuming-
Sue's off to
yeah.
college
If
and doesn't have a
Sue's
problem.
off to
and needs
college,
other
but
types of
John
supports.
needs to
Right,
stay in school.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
John
Debbie,
needs
just to step back, when should we first be contacting your office?
Well, if you know your child has a disability,
Right there.
that would be, yeah.
Okay, but I hear
Into our
there's no money,
criteria.
so there's no reason, because I'm not going to get any services, so why would I bother?
Well, it really depends, because we have different types of services. Medicaid personal care, if your child is receiving Medicaid, is probably one of our most utilized services. And if your child is not Medicaid eligible, there are other programs. I mean, I consider myself a case manager. I'm a social worker. I help people find resources. So I would at least want to be available to provide supports to the family, help them access resources that they need. The other program that we have that is popular with folks that aren't eligible for Medicaid is called Individual and Family Support Program. And I'm happy to say that by the summer, we're supposed to have everybody off our waiting list. So that is a program that does not look at your income to be eligible for. And that program provides supports for respite care. We can fund specialized medical equipment and supplies. We can pay for therapeutic horseback riding lessons. So that program is wonderful. And people, if you're getting Medicaid personal care, you can also receive IFS services, but it won't be at the same level as somebody who is just receiving IFS. Did you have a question?
I want to say something. Get on the list with respite a long time. We were on the list for a year, and we're just now getting a year.
Only a year? Wow.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. Corey, then we'll get to,
What's the DDR you guys mentioned?
great question.
Vocational
The
rehabilitation.
Department of Vocational
Yes, I'm sorry.
Rehabilitation, there's a job part of what the state does. So if like you're injured at work, these are the people that help retrain. They also will work with our kids for a little while.
For a little while.
For a
We can
little
get,
while.
yeah, we can get intensive training up to, say, 6 months or so, but.
A little
that's-
while.
It's.
But it's something,
It's
and
the
it's a
last
piece
step.
of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, can you hold this a second?
Yeah.
So Deborah,
Andrea?
when do you want me to start calling her, inviting me to some IEPs?
Well,
It sounds like I mean, it really does sound like there's a whole different thing, because we mentioned before somebody like Johnny, and everybody means it now because it's not appropriate until about 20, because of the employment issue.
I like to come as soon as I'm invited, just to help clarify, because so many people get confused about CDR and ZA, and it's.
What do you do?
No, I would say when you start talking about transition, you know, it's always the parents and the family's choice if they want me there. You know, and I always let people know that I'm always available to come as an advocate and also to help clarify, because it can be very confusing.
I don't know your job, you
Yeah.
know your job, so. okay.
Sure.
Okay.
And the eligibility is very confusing. I just showed Debbie this, I just printed this off today. This is the new WAC for eligibility for DD services. Front and back, 34 pages. So, and this clarifies how you become eligible for it. Anyway.
For the next couple of months.
But I don't,
Until they change it again.
but I don't think anybody should be intimidated by that, because the application is fairly simple. Basically, get us the information, get us, you know, contact information for the school, and if you have questions, you can call. So it's not just because there's a lot of rules about eligibility doesn't mean it has to be a cumbersome process for you.
Yeah, it's not for you, it's for us, is the cumbersome part.
Okay, so now we're approaching 18, okay? Who wants to pick it up first? Do we want to talk about guardianship and SSI? Do we want to talk about school and transition? Who wants to go first?
Well, I would say if somebody's 18, somebody who hasn't previously been eligible for Medicaid personal care because of family income, that's oftentimes when we start services for a lot of people. So if they're start receiving SSI and then they become eligible for Medicaid, which is actually called Apple Health now, so just so you understand, people call it Apple Health, that's really the old Medicaid. So when somebody turns 18, I can go out and do an assessment to see if they need help with personal care tasks. That's help with bathing, personal hygiene, preparing food, going shopping, things like that. Because we can help pay somebody to or help the individual with those tasks. And so that can start as soon as somebody has Medicaid.
So shall we trip over and do the SSI and the guardianship? Do I have to get a lawyer to do SSI?
What's that?
Do I need a lawyer?
No, not initially. I mean, to just apply and get that process started. No, you don't need a lawyer to do that. Really, the only time that you want to bring a lawyer into it is if your child has been denied, okay? And you need to appeal. But typically, people are denied the first time. Almost everyone, a large percentage of people are denied the first time. And then frequently, they are denied the second time. Now, usually it's after the second denial that you want to start looking for an attorney. There are some attorneys that want to wait for that second denial before they'll take the case. So, you know, we can help people fill out the request for reconsideration. That's the first, appeal. And then, or the request for an administrative hearing. And then we give, the list of lawyers that people in contact with his child.
So is John gonna have a problem getting SSI? I mean, this is a pretty impacted child, but that doesn't matter,
You know, it's hard to predict.
okay?
You know, Mary Ann and I have seen it over the years. People that we thought were a shoo-in for getting SSI right away. No, not always,
Okay.
no. It just, I mean, of course, the more medical documentation that you have and the doctors that are, you know, all on board saying, yes, this